everybody? Welcome back to Daft on Draft, and it is Friday. And you guys know what Friday means. Friday means we are going to go over the college football slate, and we're just going to get right into it because this is actually a pretty good slate this week overall. We're going to start off with what is happening later today, tonight. I don't actually know when you guys are listening to this or watching it, but it is Friday night, 8 p.m. Illinois, 24th ranked team in the league, in the nation, versus Nebraska, the 22nd ranked team in the nation. Cory, we were talking about this game before we got on air. What are you most excited about here?
Yeah. First of all, what year is this where Nebraska and Illinois are both ranked? Is
Both
this,
ranked, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
2008, 2007?
Mm-hmm.
I'm most looking forward to, again, I don't know if either of these teams have any legitimate NFL draft process to watch. Like, I think there's a defensive lineman named Gabe Akis on Illinois that I've liked since he's a freshman, but his play has kind of plateaued since he was a freshman. This is his third year starting. But really, like, I want to know who's pretender and who's not. Are both these teams pretender? Is it going to be really ugly? Like Dylan Raiola looks really good for a true freshman. And it's not just doing the flashy arm angle off platform stuff, but some of these windows he's anticipating are unreal, like for a true freshman to come out and do when he was in high school last year. So I kind of want to see if there's a real legitimate Big Ten team here outside of Ohio State and Oregon right now. You could throw USC in there as well. I think USC is going to start to fold when they start to see some of the big boys in the Big Ten down the stretch. But yeah, is there any other contender out there in the Big Ten? And I think this is a good game to kind of watch for that, even if there's no high quality 2025 NFL draft prospect. I know a lot of people like JC Davis, who is a New Mexico State transfer to Illinois. He's one of their offensive tackles. I wasn't huge on him this summer. I think I gave him a PFA grade this summer, but a lot of people really love him. So maybe keep an eye on there as well. But for more on, it's just like, I want to watch Dylan Raiola, man. And I want to watch him go against this Illinois defense because this Illinois defense has been keyed in for like the past 3 years. Ryan Walters, who's the head coach at Purdue, 2 years ago had them one of the best defenses in the NFL or in college football. Like they were one of the best defenses in college football. And so that hasn't really slowed down since Walters went to Purdue. I mean, it kind of did a little bit. I mean, you lose Johnny Newton, you lose Devon Witherspoon, you lose Quan Martin. You're gonna regress a little bit because you can't recruit guys like that all the time. But you get really lucky sometimes if you can land some guys like that in your recruiting classes at Illinois. So but I'm excited to just see how that defensive front in Illinois holds up and how Raiola looks against that defense.
Yeah, I want to look and see. Terrence Brooks was a transfer to Illinois, and I haven't seen how he has played so far this year. But he is somebody who got some accolades when he was playing at Texas. He's played 2 games so far. Looks like 2 receptions, 6 targets his way, and so that might be something to watch for a potential NFL draft guy in his 3rd season. I think he is a true junior at Illinois, so transfer guy maybe to watch there.
Yeah, Zachary Franklin's another one. People loved him when he was at UTSA. He was one of those.
Yeah.
UTSA just had like a stable of 6'2", 200-pound receivers who would bully ball at the catch point. And Zachary Franklin was one of those guys, and he transferred to Illinois as well. So that's one worth watching.
Yeah, I mean, do we want to talk about NC State Clemson? Like they just both feel like underwhelming ACC teams because we had some people had high hopes for NC State this year coming into the year, and Clemson is always Clemson, but Dabo has kind of sabotaged his own organization there by not going after transfers at all, not dealing with the transfer portal and kind of shunning NIL, which, I mean, good luck, Dabo.
Yeah.
But is there anybody on this? Because like Davin Vann is a guy I've been watching now for 2 years, that NC State defensive front. Like Klubnik is not good, like consistent, not good, like good athlete, but like it's just not there with him. And there's not much from a draft prospect perspective in this game, and you're just not used to seeing that from Clemson.
Yeah, I know Trevor Sycamore really likes Blake Miller, their right tackle. I believe he was Trevor's OT2 from summer scouting. I personally am not that high on him. I think he's got some anchor issues, and he's kind of like, I don't love big frame tackles because that screams leverage issues to me for the most part.
Yeah.
If you're a big frame tackle, and that kind of holds up with Miller, in my opinion. I respect Trevor, and Trevor's been on the pod, and he does really good work for PFF. But Blake Miller is a guy that people like. And then on the other side, NC State's got an offensive tackle, Anthony Belton, who I do like. But the thing with Anthony Belton, though, is like we've been talking about Anthony Belton for 3 years now. And at some point, man, like if we keep talking about you and in day two territory, like he's consistently brought up in day two territory, then like, why are we still in school? So I tend to think that like maybe the NFL is not as high as draft nicks are on this guy. And now he's a 6th year. He was a former VMI transfer. So, he's a 6th year now. So, but I mean, he's another guy who's a legitimate like 6'5", 340. Like he's a big boy and he moves well for that size. So I do like a lot about what Anthony Belton brings, but like at some point, like, why are we still talking about you? And so it kind of is an underwhelming slate of prospects in that game too.
That reminds me a little bit of Ruben Fothery as well at Texas A&M, somebody who I feel like has been on the radar for a couple of years and is still in school. The next game I think that we need to talk about is USC Michigan, 3:30 on CBS. Miller Moss, like I said, saw him go first overall in a mock draft. I don't remember who did it. I'm not going to call out anybody anyways because there's no reason to do that. But not a guy that's going to go first overall in any of our mock drafts, but has played well for USC so far this year. And if Michigan has anything, it is a good defense. So, I mean, offensively, they have all of their own issues. We'll see what they get with the quarterback change. But is it going to bring all that much?
Man, I think Michigan's going to lose like 5 games this year. I really do. Like do
you think they just lost too much, or is it just the quarterback play is going to be that bad?
I think they lost a lot. And then once Harbaugh left, I mean, yeah, I think they all knew. I think they all knew it was coming down the pipeline, and they all dipped, including their head coach. I think even the amount of people they transferred out is staggering for a team that just won a national title. And so I think a lot of people saw what was coming down the pipeline there in Ann Arbor, and they were like, all right, we're good. We got our ring. Let's get out. But the quarterback play is hideous. The offensive line play for Michigan is horrendous, which this is the team that like under Harbaugh, like that was their identity. JJ McCarthy threw the ball 15 times a game down the stretch. Like they barely relied on his arm to make plays because they could just pound the rock. And this offensive line, they cannot do that. And again, you lose Blake Corum. And I do like the running back, not Edwards, but the other guy. I can't, his name is slipping me right now, but I do like him. That sounded really harsh about Donovan Edwards, but it's kind of true. But it's kind of true.
Really harsh on Donovan Edwards for 3 years now.
Yeah, he can catch the football. He's a good receiver, but that's about it. But this might be a test of just how soft Michigan is, because if there's one thing that Lincoln Riley USC team has been branded as over the past 2 years, it's soft in big games. So let's see that. Again, the Miller Moss thing, like I compare Miller Moss with Lincoln Riley to what Case Keenum did at Houston back in the day. Like Case Keenum set records. He threw for Bailey Zappi at Western Kentucky, set records. These guys both had noodle arms. Just because you're throwing for a lot of passing yards doesn't mean you're a good NFL quality quarterback. We just had this conversation about Bryce Young, and Bryce Young has more tools than Miller Moss. Bryce Young had more tools than Case Keenum. Bryce Young had more tools than Bailey Zappi. So like, he could be a fun college quarterback, but we can't take it further than that, man. His arm is just.
Yep. No, I agree with you.
The USC game, though, I do want to bring this up because Mason Graham is Michigan does have really good defensive tackles. And I hated Jonah Monheim's tape at left tackle. Hated it when he played left tackle for USC. He's playing center for them, and he's playing really well at center. I do want to see that. Okay. I want to see Jonah Monheim and how he looks at center against Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant.
The next game that we're going to talk about here, UCLA and LSU. First of all, LSU should have lost that game last week. They should have lost that game last week. Mm-hmm. They should be 1-2 right now. They are not a very good football team. I mean, we can bring up Nussmeier, but like played really well in week 1. But as an NFL player, it's probably not there, right?
I think you got to ask, like, if you had to put Nussmeier in the NFL right now, whose tools would you comp him most to? And like, I'm struggling to like Bo Nix and Bo Nix can move better than Nuss can.
Yeah. Well, for sure.
Yeah, like I'm struggling to think of a quarterback with comparable tools who's successful in the NFL. Like, I think people are like thinking that Nuss has a really big arm, and
No.
he can throw from a lot of different arm slots, which is awesome to manipulate windows like that. But like, I don't think he has a big arm, and he
No.
definitely doesn't have lower half tools to like navigate murky pockets or make plays out of structure. So like, I think we're really desperate to find a quarterback in this class, and I think people are trying to make it Nussmeier, and it's not.
Yeah. Well, people are trying to make it Miller Moss too. So like,
Yeah.
it's just people are trying to find something here, and it's just not there in this class.
But UCLA is putrid, and so he should look really good in this game. UCLA beat Hawaii by 3 points in their first game of the season. Hawaii by 3 points. UCLA lost to Indiana 42-13 last week. And which Indiana, they hired Cignetti from James Madison, who just led James Madison to a really good season in their first ever year in FBS level play. Like,
yeah.
So he's got, and they transferred in the Ohio quarterback, Rourke, the brother of the guy who set records at Ohio, and then he was on Jacksonville's practice squad for a while and is like lit up the CFL for a while. But so they have some guys they've transferred in, and I think they have a philosophy shift in Bloomington. But like, you're UCLA, and Indiana went to Southern California and kicked your ass. Like, that's a culture shock, probably for both teams to do that. Yeah. And so I think it's going to be a rough season for UCLA. I mean, look, their next 3 games are against 16 LSU, 9 Oregon, 10 Penn State are their next 3 games. So I think it's going to be a little rough stretch right here for UCLA. So Nuss should look good in this game. But UCLA is pretty talent barren right now. At the same time.
Next game I want to bring up, and we didn't talk about this one before the podcast, but it's Georgia Tech and Louisville. And I want to bring it up because, man, I had a ton of fun watching this Georgia Tech defense against Florida State. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we didn't know how bad Florida State was going to be when that game happened, but that was a lot of fun. And then they played Syracuse, who Kyle McCord playing really good football there. But they lost that game by 3. And so I'm really interested, not as much in Georgia Tech, although King has been a lot of fun to watch there as well. I'm really interested to see how much of a contender Louisville might actually be against a good, who I think Georgia Tech is a good football team. They're hard.
They have an identity. Team. Yes.
And so I'm really interested to see how Louisville, who is ranked number 19 in the nation, stacks up against that.
Yeah. Again, Georgia Tech has an identity, and they're going to run the football, and they're going to give you a lot of eye candy on some jet motions and stuff like that, but they are going to run the football. And they bullied Florida State, and a lot of people said Florida State had the best defensive. I mean, that's very much disproven 3 weeks into the season now, but a lot of people said Florida State had the best defensive line in the nation coming into the season, which is just not the case. But I will say there's some decent draftable talent on Louisville's defensive front. They have Ashton Galote. I don't know if I probably butchered his last name. It's a double L double T had been his name, so it could be Guillote or whatever. But there's a different. I'm not going to look it up until we're done recording. But they have him, who's projected as probably like a 4th, maybe a top 100. Doubt it, but like a mid-round guy. Mason Reimer, who's a rotational defensive end for them, pass rusher, has some NFL draft type, and then Thor Griffith, who has been on what's the guy the freak list? Feldman. Bruce Feldman's. He's been on Bruce Feldman's freak list. He's a Harvard transfer. He's a defensive tackle now playing for Louisville. So, and I just think Jeff Brom is legitimately one of the best coaches in the nation.
Yeah,
like
he's great.
If you look at what he did to Purdue, and I mentioned my love for Ryan Walters, but like, look what Purdue is doing now without Jeff Brom. Look what Louisville did with Scott Satterfield before he was fired. No, he wasn't fired. I'm so sorry. He was just hired at Cincinnati. He just left for Cincinnati. Look at Cincinnati now, who was a college football playoff team a couple of years ago, is abysmal under Satterfield. Now look at Louisville once Satterfield's exited and Braum has taken that program over. So I think Jeff Braum is just a tremendous head coach. So it will be interesting to see, can this team be a sleeper ACC team? Like, can they compete with the Miami? That's going to be really fun to watch. And they also have a pretty good corner, Quincy Riley, as well, who,
Yes.
I don't think Georgia Tech has any wide receivers who could carry his water, but like, can he dominate? If that's the case, like that's going to be something to watch too. But really, those three defensive linemen I watched against a team that's identity is we're going to run the ball at you. So
yeah,
that's going to be a low key exciting game. Yeah.
Next game, another one. 2 top 15 teams, Utah and Oklahoma State. This one's at 4:00 on Fox. Is Ollie Gordon going to get on track?
Yeah.
Is Ollie Gordon going to get on track? That's the big question that I have for this entire season, really, because a lot of hype as a potential RB1, and I don't think you can look at it any other way that right now than Ashton Jeanty is RB1 until Ollie Gordon steps it up, if Ollie Gordon steps it up.
Mm-hmm. And on the other side, Utah has a linebacker who is in Dane Brugler's top 50 and Lander Barton, who's Cody Barton's younger brother who plays in the NFL, who also went to Utah. And so, that'll be a good thing. If they meet in the hole, and you've mentioned in our builder running back or builder prospect episode yesterday, like Ollie's good at making people miss in the hole. How are they going to look if they meet face to face there? We get to see Zach Wilson's little brother starting his second game as a true freshman there at Utah as well.
Yeah, Cam Rising, my apparent doppelganger, according to some people. For anybody who is not like super familiar with me, doppelgangers are something that I apparently just look like a lot of different people.
You do. Spencer Strider, Adam Driver. Yeah, you got a lot of them out there.
I've gotten Miles Teller. I've gotten Shia LaBeouf. I mean, it depends on what my hairstyle is and how much facial hair I have at the time. If I'm 30 pounds heavier or 30 pounds lighter, I get doppelgangers all of the time. It's just anybody with a big nose is a doppelganger to me. But no, yeah, definitely. He's not draft eligible. Obviously, he's a freshman, but the Zach Wilson tree there with his younger brother starting at Utah is going to be a lot of fun to watch in a big, big game for Utah this year. So next game I want to talk about just very quickly, mostly because I want to see RJ Maryland against the TCU defense, because for a long time, a lot of people have been very, very excited, very much enjoy watching the TCU defense operate. TCU, not what they once were anymore, but Maryland is somebody who is a ton of fun to watch. I think he's a fantastic receiver for the position, tight end. And I'm really excited to see what that game looks like overall, just because I'm a Dallas guy, was a Dallas guy for years and years, and that is the battle for DFW.
Yeah.
I also just think college football would be more, and we talked about this with UNLV in the previous episode. I just think college football would be more fun with SMU being very good as well.
Yeah. Do you find it odd they joined the ACC instead of the Big 12?
Yes, I do.
Me too. It's bizarre. This geographic stuff has thrown me way out for a loop. But
yeah,
they also created an unnecessary quarterback controversy. I don't think Preston Stone needed to go through all of that. But whatever. But RJ Maryland, ton of fun. Their TCU quarterback Hoover's been putting up some numbers too. Again, I haven't watched him close enough to say if he's an NFL draft prospect or not, but like the Hoover kid is putting up some numbers for TCU too. So we'll see about that.
Next game we need to talk about here is Tennessee and Oklahoma. Are we going to see Pierce at some point in this game? Are we going to see?
We need to, yeah.
And is this Tennessee team for real? Because like I said earlier, they boat raced NC State, and there were people that had NC State as a potential ACC contender this year. And so how good is Tennessee? And they're the 6th ranked team in the nation. We were talked about it on the last episode on the Dafter draft. It's 5 teams from the SEC making the 12-team playoff. Tennessee being in the top 6 right now. Oklahoma also in the SEC now. What can they do? And they have a very veteran quarterback back there who you expect to kind of show up in a big game like this against another SEC opponent. So Oklahoma's going to have to put up points. Tennessee, if they do anything, it's put up points week in and week out. I think they scored 70 points in the first half last week.
Yeah. Oklahoma's got a dynamite safety, though. Billy Bowman. I don't know if you've watched Billy Bowman yet. Dude, I love Billy Bowman. Love Billy Bowman. But another, like, this is more for 2026, but like, how much longer, and it could already be like, there's some sickos out there doing 2026 mocks already, but like, how much longer till it's consensus that Nico Yamavalea is like getting mocked to 1.1 next year, you know, that kind of thing as well. Again, he's coming from a Heppel offense, which is going to be working against him. But I mean, he's got tremendous arm time. He looks like Clemson Trevor Lawrence, the way he moves and throws the football, like mechanically, he kind of looks like Trevor Lawrence out there. And again, Trevor Lawrence was hyped up as a generational prospect, which hasn't really turned out at the NFL level. And I think you could probably say, well, what kind of direction does their offense take? And some of it's clearly on his lap too. But I think I'm interested in that angle as well. But, you know, looking at Tennessee defensively, yeah, James Pierce has played 50 snaps this season. So, like, let's play a real opponent, and they are finally. And so how is he going to look against Oklahoma in this game? And can he step, because he doesn't have a sack yet this season, and he's been mocked first overall by a lot of people. So I'm interested in that for sure. But Billy Bowman, if he's playing center field against this Heppel offense, that's going to be something. He's gonna have a lot of chances to get his hand on the football.
Yeah. Yeah, that Heppel offense is
I hate it. I hate it.
It's great for college football because they just spread teams out and absolutely obliterate space. It's great for that. It's absolutely impossible for evaluating wide receivers and quarterbacks.
Even running backs, they're just running inside zone into 5-man boxes because they're spreading everybody else out across the field. Like it's hard.
Yeah. And you wouldn't think normally that we would have to talk about Texas A&M and Bowling Green, but we have to talk about Texas A&M and Bowling Green because Bowling Green almost beat Penn State, and you have a love affair with Bowling Green.
I have a love affair with Bowling Green's tight end. And we're talking about tight ends next week, and I'm really excited. And he's only a true junior, and he didn't transfer up, which is a small, like an orange flag for me. Like, if this guy's really as good as I think he is, why didn't no P4 school come and get him? A little bit of an orange flag for me. Not quite a red flag. He could just not have an agent, and you know that's possible. But the amount of agents that utilize PFF and just go off their grades and things like that, it kind of raises a little bit of an orange flag. But and he torched Penn State over 100 yards on like 12 catches, 11 catches, something like that. It's Harold Fannin Jr. He's only a true junior. And again, it's very rare to see an underclassman declare unless they are a Brock Bowers, unless they are somebody of that mold where like, no, this is the best player in the country, right? And I don't know, like a Colson Loveland is kind of getting that treatment as well. Although we're going to get into some tight ends next week, and I'm building up a take. It's like it's in my chest. I can feel it. But I think if Fannin, even though he's listed at 6'4", 240, he's probably 6'3", 235. Even though he's probably undersized, if he can do what he did against Penn State, against Texas A&M, even as a true junior playing at a MAC school, I think we have to take him seriously as a 2025 prospect. And so that's what I'm going to be watching for in this game.
Another thing to watch for: how long is Connor Wagman going to be out for? Because that's another injury. And this is not a good injury. This is an AC joint injury.
Yep.
Not good. Could explain a little bit why he stunk it up against Notre Dame. But it was apparently too painful to play through last week. And so, again, somebody who we really like coming into the year, we love what he was able to bring from a decision-making perspective, specifically with getting the ball out quick, the ability to avoid sacks, get the ball out where it needed to go, the athleticism, not like truly a dual threat, but the athleticism to kind of create a little bit. But the injuries are piling up for him, and he's going to need to come back in SEC play and play some really good football if this 2025 QB class is going to be saved.
If he has the chance to come back and play. Like, I don't think Marcel Reed has backup played well enough to take his job. I think Marcel Reed started that game out pretty on fire.
Really well.
But Florida's a dumpster fire. Like they've been blown out twice now by two teams they should be competitive against if Florida was Florida, right? I mean, Miami smoked them. Texas A&M smoked them. Billy Napier is going to get fired in the coming weeks. It is what it is in Gainesville right now. And I thought, even watching Marcel Reed, like his arm isn't like tremendous. He's really athletic, but like if Marcel Reed goes out and plays well against Bowling Green, at some point, Mike Elko and Texas A&M are going to say like, well, I'd rather count on his availability and not have to come up with 2 game plans a week. Like that's a real possibility. And if that's the case, Weigman's probably going to redshirt. He's going to, I don't think he's redshirted yet. He might have, I don't know. But if that's the case, Weigman's going to hit the portal next year, and we're going to be right here talking about it again. But we're reaching the point with Weigman's, right? Like, I'm not going to chart Weigman against Notre Dame, and I'm not going to chart Weigman against McNeese until he starts stacking some SEC games to the point where I can take him seriously in 2025. I'm not wasting my time right now.
No, you
which
should,
is a stark 180 from where we were 4 weeks ago. But I'm not wasting my time with Connor Weigman right now until he stays on the field and until he beats a quality opponent and plays well against a quality opponent.
That's it. That's all we got. I don't really think we need to talk about anything else. I think the 2 other games, the late games, BYU and Kansas State. Kansas State looked really good last week. So,
they're the bully ball team this year, man. They're just gonna.
Have you watched much of Giddens yet?
He's pretty nice. I haven't watched him like in depth, but he can move. He's nice. And then Dylan Edwards, the Colorado transfer, the kid who was starting as a true freshman at Colorado and got the hell out of there. He's a dynamic change of pace, and he's returned a punt for a touchdown last week too. Like he's nice. That boy nice. That Kansas State's one of those teams is like, could they, if they get an 8 seed in the college football playoff, could they a team that they're going to have to play it, because that first round of the playoffs is a home game. It's not a bowl game. It's essentially it's a home game.
Yeah.
Could they go?
Home game,
Could they go into Knoxville and punch Tennessee in the mouth?
Yeah.
Could they, could they travel to Missouri and punch Missouri in the mouth? Like, that's the kind of team Kansas State's coming out to be. I don't think Avery Johnson's a stellar quarterback right now, but he's really athletic and he can get outside, contain too, and do some things with his legs. But Kansas State's a team like they could travel to SEC territory in a first round matchup in the playoffs, and they could potentially punch a team like Tennessee in the mouth.
Yeah, especially when you have a run game like that can kind of slow the game down against a team like Tennessee as well. As long as you can keep that in a neutral game script, because like if you get behind, then you get a little screwed up.
Throw the football,
you got to throw the football, and then your whole game plan kind of goes out the window. But Kansas State, how real are you? BYU, it's a 7-point spread. I mean, it's not a huge spread in that game, so it'll be interesting. That's all we got. That is our Friday podcast. Setting up week 4. I have to be so careful when it comes down to what week it is in college football. It is week 4. There have been 5 weeks of college football so far, but the first week is week 0. That's how I have to remember. That's how my brain has to work in that moment when I'm talking about it. But don't want to take up any more of y'all's time. Have a good weekend, everybody. Enjoy college football. We will be back on Tuesday to break down what happened and to see if any other like rookie quarterbacks or second-year quarterbacks get benched in the NFL. It happened this week. Nobody really expected it, but we will see what happens. Something always comes up. He has been Cory Kinnan. I am Dalton Miller. Thank you for listening or watching Daft on Draft. I love you. Goodbye.
Welcome to the NFL Draft.